Hey, TTRP gamers. This is Nick with Jacob, and we've had lots of people's questions about the Genesys system and how to make a dice pool. So today we're going to walk Jacob through making dice pools for skill checks, and the rules we're going to reference are going to be in the Genesys core rulebook. Jacob, what do you know about the different dice types?
There are blue ones and green ones and yellow ones that are good ones, and there are black ones and red ones and purple ones that are bad ones. And I roll some number of them based off of what Zach tells me to.
I mean, that sounds fair. He's the GM, so he gets to tell you what to roll. So you mentioned like some different colored dice.
Oh, there they are.
Okay, so we've got these yellow ones, and those are called proficiency dice. For those of you that are not familiar with polyhedral dice, these are 12-sided, and basically they've got like a blank side, and then on opposite of that they have a triumph, and then like they have like double successes, single successes, advantage, mixes of the two between successes and advantages. We'll go over what that all means. Then we've got the green dice, which have 8 sides, and they're called ability dice. These are based on your characteristic, so you get one of these for each rank in a characteristic you have. And then we got those blue dice, and these are called boost dice. I think most of the time we forget what they're called in the actual when we're actually playing, but yeah, they're called boosts. And they're 6-sided dice, and actually they have 2 blank sides, and then a single success, a success and an advantage, and a double advantage and a single advantage. So they're not great, because a third of the time you're going to get nothing out of them.
But they help.
They do help. And then we got our red dice, and these are called challenge dice. They're kind of the opposite of our proficiency dice. They've got 12 sides, and instead of a triumph, they have a despair. And then we've got our purple dice, which are difficulty dice, and these have 8 sides. They're the opposite of your ability dice. And like the GM is going to tell you how many there are, given like how difficult a task is going to be. And then you could also do opposed checks. We also have the black dice, which are called setback dice. I don't think we've ever actually used that term in the show. But these, again, are 6-sided. They're granted by the GM or players as a result of like previous rolls that had unused advantages or threats, or from like circumstances of the narrative. So like if you drop prone, people will get a black die to try and like shoot you with a weapon. Again, these have 2 blank sides, 2 single threats, and 2 single failures. That should say failures in my notes. And on our dice here, we have some different like results we can look at. So on our green, yellow, and blue dice, we have advantages, which are the little like angle-looking things. You can see them on the green die and yellow die there pretty easily in the top of the boost die. Those can be used for like activating weapons. It takes 2 advantages to activate auto fire, and it just lets them basically attack everybody in an area. They can also be spent to give your group boost dice. If it's out of combat, sometimes it can be used. I think we made Officer Rex Friendly show up in the middle of that combat against the horrors. I know threats we've seen before. Those are on the black, purple, and red dice. Those are those little like target-looking things. And threats get used against us all the time. Zach loves threats.
Yeah, I feel like they usually get used to make black setback dice for different checks later.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's like, oh, you fell down and you're prone, or oh, you're going to get a black die because you're busy dodging as everybody's shooting at you. And then we got our successes, and those are kind of like the little starbursts on our green, yellow, and blue dice. These are kind of like the most useful of all the rolls, other than triumphs and despairs, which we'll talk about. To get any roll to work, any ability check to work, you have to have at least one uncancelled success. If it's a wash, it's still a failure. And what's nice about successes is like the more you have, the greater the magnitude of success. With weapons, it's really easy to like say, okay, well, Goose shot this guy with his laser pistol. It deals 6 points of damage. He has 2 successes, so add 1 extra point of damage. And then we have failures, and those are those little X's you can see on the purple, red, and black die. So your setbacks, challenges, and difficulty dice. Failures do not indicate the magnitude of a failure. Only despairs do that. So, like, a failure is a failure is a failure, whereas, like I said, with successes, the more you have, the greater the magnitude of success. If you fail, you just fail. And then you have triumphs. The triumph is only found on our proficiency die. That's that yellow 12-sided one. And they kind of look like the little starburst inside a circle. Triumphs can be used to just, like, auto crit somebody or activate a weapon's special abilities, just like advantage can be used. But they can also be used for like important narrative actions. The cool thing about triumphs is they're basically like super advantage because they count as one success and as a triumph itself. And that's why you only need one triumph to do crits or activate weapon abilities. And then finally we have despairs. Despairs are the little ugly X inside of a targeting reticle. You can kind of see it on the bottom of the challenge die there. These, like triumphs, can't be canceled out. So like if you roll a triumph and a despair, they both count, but they would cancel out like their failure and their success, which is kind of confusing, but like the actual despair effect is still gonna happen. One of the examples the book has is like, oh, you rolled to like climb this cliff and you rolled a despair, so you get to plummet to the ground. Or like in the middle of a fight, you've run out of ammo. That would be a despair. What do you know about difficulty settings?
I think I have started to be able to guess sort of how they work. This is definitely something that Zach just tells me what to roll.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think I really understand the upgrading rationality. I think I get the like why there are the number of purple die that there are, but I don't know why you upgrade them.
Okay.
And I get using threats to cause the setbacks, but
okay. So like there are 6 levels of difficulty that the GM can basically like throw at you. There's simple tasks, which are like just a flat, you roll your green dice or your yellow dice and there's no purple against you. They're like everyday driving or making a sandwich or opening an unlocked door. They're all considered simple tasks, and like the only time a GM would make you actually roll for these would be just for the chance of like failing.
okay.
Normally you don't roll on these unless you just want to like, or maybe you want to see like how successful they are. That would be the other option. We've had a few easy tasks in our game, and those are 1 difficulty die. Most of the time, these rolls are simply to determine the magnitude of success. It's something like your average character with a characteristic 2 would have 2 green die against a difficulty die, and they're going to succeed something between like 60 and 70% of the time. And so that's like shooting somebody at close range or convincing a friend to help you with a task. Those are all considered easy. Average tasks, which I think are the most common that Zach has thrown our way, are 2 difficulty dice. So, like, a character with a single proficiency die and a single ability die will succeed 2/3 of the time, and an untrained person will succeed slightly less than half the time. This would be like sewing somebody's wound up, or punching someone while they're grappling, or picking a typical lock. Like, these are all, like, even an amateur could do it if they were just, like, average. Then we have hard tasks, and I feel like
I get a lot of the next ones. I'm pretty sure the last 3 rolls I've done have been daunting.
Hard tasks are 3 difficulty dice, and these are things that would, like without the proper tools and training, you might be able to do it, but you're pretty likely to fail. This would be like setting a broken bone, finding food and water in a desert, or shooting someone at really long range. And then, like, a daunting task is gonna sap your resources. Those are those 4 difficulty dice. And usually we handle those by spending story points or talents. A daunting example for those in the audience would be to jump into the internet and turn off everybody's phone. And then the last one's a formidable task, and these are supposed to be, like, nearly impossible. They use 5 difficulty tasks, and, like, a really skilled character is only going to succeed about 25% of the time. And, like, an unprepared, untrained character is going to only succeed, like, 10% of the time. So this would be, like, creating a genetic template to clone a new body, lifting a car off of a loved one in a, like, stressful situation. And then, like, you asked about upgrading and downgrading dice. So, like,
Yeah.
I went through the rule book. Like, upgrades and downgrades can be found on page 22 of the core rulebook. And basically, it only affects ability and difficulty dice, and you can upgrade them to proficiency or challenge dice. And usually, this is done because of, like, an ability or a talent a character might have. And so where that comes into play is, like, adversaries, so monsters and enemies, typically have a talent called Adversary 1 or Adversary 2 or whatever. I think it can go all the way up to a rank 5 adversary. For each rank of adversary you have, it increases the die by 1.
So basically, I understand how to build my character's dice pool by combination of my characteristics and skills and talents. So, like, when you're doing the opposing check, or building it for an adversary, you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sort of. Yeah, so, like, if they try and attack you, that you might have a talent that says, like, they have to upgrade the check.
Yeah.
And also, we have ranged and melee defense and other stuff that helps with that too. One thing that's, like, interesting about the upgrading and downgrading mechanic is if you have to upgrade more times than you have dice. So, like, you have 2 ability dice, but a talent tells you to upgrade something 3 times, which would be ridiculous. I don't think there's anything that does that. But if you did, your upgrade would be like swapping out 2 of your green dice for 2 proficiency dice, 2 yellow ones, and then adding another green die for a total of 2 yellow and 1 green. And then if you had to upgrade 4 times, you would have 3 yellow. And that the same kind of goes with difficulty and challenge dice. So, like, if they were an adversary 3, but the check was average, so, like, does that make sense? Trying to shoot somebody within, like, medium range is an average check. So he would have 2 purple die, but if he was fighting an adversary 3, it would upgrade those purple dice to challenge dice, and so he'd have 2 challenge dice and then it would upgrade a third time because it's adversary 3, and it would have an extra purple, so 2 red and a purple.
You're basically talking about when you have more upgrades than you have raw skill or characteristic,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And it just adds an extra one until
Right.
you've fully upgraded everything. So let's talk about like actually building a dice pool. I know a lot of your abilities are against average, I think. Like your attack abilities are just an average roll. So we know that would be 2 purple
Attack
die.
abilities.
You would have 2 purple dice against you for any average attack. There's 3 kinds of checks that are like pretty standard in the book. You have your attack checks, your assisted checks, and your opposed checks. And the standard one, I think you grasp pretty well. Like once you know what the difficulty is, once Zach tells you what the adversary level is, you usually build your dice pool pretty well.
Yeah.
But do you know how assisted checks work?
No.
Okay. So let's say there's a task. Maybe Dr. Zed has to attach a limb to a party member. Maybe it's Tyke. Maybe Tyke lost an arm, and we need to hold him down during surgery. So Dr. Zed would have to help hold down Tyke, and then maybe Carl would assist with that. So if I remember correctly, Dr. Zed's brawn is a 3, but he doesn't have any points in brawl, which is what you would use for grappling somebody. But Carl has a 2 in brawn, and I think he has 3 skill points in brawl. So for this check, we would use Dr. Zed's characteristic, because it's higher, so you'd get 3 green die. And then Carl's proficiency would upgrade those 3 to yellow dice, because he has a proficiency bonus of 3. So you'd have a total of 3 yellow dice to hold down Tyke while we reattach his limb.
Okay. That we should leverage that more.
And then the last one, we talked about opposed checks. So these are like specifically when a character like Tyke tries to read another character's mind. I think you used willpower, so that's 4 dice, and then you had 1, right? So it was like
I think at the time I had 1 yellow.
Green dice,
like
1 was
upgrade.
upgraded. Yeah, so you had 1 yellow and 3 green. But then like Goose had like a 2 willpower, so he had 2 purple against that. But then he also had that talent that gave you 2 setback dice when you tried to read his mind. Yeah, by the way, I highly recommend getting the app for your phone, folks. Even with ads, it's still worth the trouble because it cancels all this out for you. You don't have to think.
You don't have to think. And that's what I want in my tabletop role-playing games, is not having to think.
I don't mind thinking, I just don't want to think about numbers.
I do feel like I understand how to make these dice pools more now. Particularly the assisted check. Like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
We should start helping each other a lot more.
We should, especially when we're trying to do something like break down a door. And, like, we always end up failing because we're not helping each other.
Yeah. Let's be a smart party.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder. So next time we do this, we're going to talk about encounters, specifically combat encounters, and that will look more into like how combat actually works and like different modifiers that can go on your dice pools. So we'll talk about that next time.
Just to be clear, no matter what Nick says next time, the way combat works in Genesys is you say something that you want to do, and the GM tells you whether you can do that or not and how difficult it will be, and then you just try.
Yeah, Believe it or not, there are rules for this game. But yeah, it'll be something like that. We'll say, I want to do this, and Zach will say, that sounds ridiculous, let's roll.
But only one person sort of needs to know them.
Yeah, that's true. One
At least from
person
my
needs to know the
perspective.
rules.
The reality is everyone else in the group knows all the rules and just casually reads talents in their spare time, and I just don't, and I just trust them, and they support me.
That's right. We are
That's how we
supportive
help each
here at
other.
RPGs Anonymous. Yeah, we're giving Jacob assistance in
Yes.
his real life.
Yes.
All right. So that's all I've got. Unless you have any questions, I didn't see anything in chat. Nobody said anything. So
Oh, I think we're good. Just check out the stream, subscribe, check out the Discord. I'm assuming all this will be in whatever description or medium you are listening to and watching us on.
Yeah, definitely. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of this kind of thing, make sure you subscribe to the Twitch channel and like and subscribe it when it's in
Also,
podcast form and YouTube form.
Also, if you want to see things that are completely different from what we just did, we have those things too. I don't think showing up for the stream for the actual play is anything like this.
Also, we would like you to tweet us at RPGs Anonymous 1. Feel free to join our Discord and Twitch communities. Links in the description. We'll see you all in the multiverse.
The thing that really made me laugh was you guys being like, yeah, we should be smart players. And I'm like, ha! Yeah, right.